8:42, I think we should just go ahead and start.
Yes. All right, I have to, okay, yeah, all right. All right, let's go, let's do this. What's up, everyone? It's your girl, Vigo Genesis here and live in Orlando, Florida. I am on this important panel that I wanted to everyone. I am your lovely host, and then I have my lovely co-host, Jolene from Defining Movements. And once again, today it is the No Excuses Prevention and Awareness for Sexual Harassment. This is what the whole initiative that we're doing today and gathering who we have on the panel tonight. If you didn't know, April is SAM, SAAM, which is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So what a perfect time to be on this panel and to talk about the topic that we're about to talk about. Last year, back in September of 2021, me and Jolene, we did Hip Hop Artists Against Sexual Misconduct. It was also in collaboration with DJ Flag, who also took initiative to want to provide more online sexual harassment training courses. And we did it through VSC in Florida with Emily Mitchell, who is their education coordinator. So we do have resources here in Florida for those who need help, professional help for this. So as we go along, I will be introducing many people on the panel, and so is Jolene. And then we will also have a full agenda for you. So thank you for everyone who's tuning in. Please feel free to comment on the Facebook live stream. If you have any questions, we will be periodically stopping to answer them. And then Jolene will be, like I said, the moderator to keep track of the questions. And we'll go back at the end for open Q&A. So once again, I would like to introduce May and Louie, the co-founders and co-directors of the Good Foot Arts Collective No Excuses campaign, all the way in Seattle, Washington. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. So happy for you to be there and to have a male on this panel. So it's great to have two different perspectives from two different genders. And next we have is Ntegrity, president of Ntegrity in Motion, focused on moving and empowering people through dance, education, and entertainment. She is an advocate for sexual assault and harassment, coming out with her blog to support respects and safe spaces within our community. So if you haven't seen it, we're actually going to share her follow-up blog that she did from last year. And so it's a follow-up one we'll be sharing on for you tonight on this panel. And then Jolene, I'm going to kick it off to you. You can continue.
Yes, we have the amazing, the hip hop legend, the icon, the co-founder of the Full Circle Soldiers Dance Company from New York City, the one, the only, Rockefeller. She is in the house, and we are so thankful to have her here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Everybody else. And then joining us, and we are so thankful to have her expert opinion, is Sandra. Sandra Valente. Valente, did I say that right? Valente. Valente. I think I got that right. She'll probably correct me if not. But she is a professional psychologist providing clinical therapy for over 30 years, specializing in trauma-related diagnosis. And she is also in another country right now. So she's
you're fine, you're fine.
I love the spontaneity of it.
Yes, that's great. So Sandra is in another country right now. I think she said she's where in Ntegrity, because she's gonna have maybe some technical difficulties, so she jumps in and jumps out. But
Yeah.
she's our professional psychologist on the panel, so we just want to make it clear that we do have somebody who can provide expert opinions as
In
well.
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, there it is. There she is. So thank you so much, Sandra, for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Okay, awesome. Like Jolene mentioned that we will have some connectivity problems sometimes. We're all,
Costa Rica.
we're all here live in Costa Rica and Seattle.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. We got New York in the house. Ntegrity, is it New Jersey, right?
Oh, CT, Connecticut.
Connecticut. And so next we're going to have everyone individually introduce themselves and to tell them more about what they do and who they are. So we'll kick it off with Ntegrity, since I just, let's go.
Yeah, what's going on, everybody? I hope you guys are operating on a good high vibrational frequency. I'm really excited to be a part of this panel and the collective group of people. For me, I am a part of United Outcast crew. I've been dancing for, I don't know. I feel like you shouldn't even have a number at this point. So I'm not going to give it to you, but a long time. And one of my partners in crime is B-Girl Trinity. And last year I came out with a blog and just talking about my story, my personal story with sexual assault and harassment. It got a lot of traction and recognition, and provided people to ask questions about our processes and procedures to create safe space for the B-boy and B-girl community. And now, a year later, in April, which is SAM Sexual Assault Awareness Month, we want to do more. And I'm so happy that we want to help people or educate them on what respect looks like, what boundaries look like. And I'm just happy to be here. I love dance, I love people, and I specifically love this dance because it brings me so much joy. And you definitely want, the thing that brings you joy should make you feel safe and feel loved and supported. So thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it. And that's it. Next.
Aw, thank you so much for sharing who you are. It's really an honor to have you on this panel. I think what you're doing is courageous, and to continue to move forward in light, to heal. We're all going through a lot of things and healing in our own personal journey. So I commend you for the courage that you have just to be here today. On top of that, I want to mention that we do have some verbal agreements. You know, we're here to respect everyone's journey. We could agree to disagree, but of course to practice self-care. If you do get triggered by anything that we talked tonight, just letting you know, we do have a professional psychologist here. And also please, call a friend if you feel like you're getting triggered and need to leave, and please be safe.
Yes, it's okay to totally take a break, y'all. If you need it, step away for a second, take a couple breaths. If you want to come back and join us, if you want to message us afterward or message anybody in the panel afterward, we open that. I think everybody's okay with that. But while we're doing this, it's totally okay to take a break if you need to. And feel free to comment, because we are here for you all.
Yes, and then Sandra, she said she could offer a contact to her as a resource if those who really need it. So that's really great. Thank you so much for adding you to the many resources that we're going to mention tonight.
Yes.
So on top of that, we're here to listen to understand one another and be mature adults as we navigate through these conversations that are going to be really deep. And then on to the next, we're going to introduce Louie and May with The Good Foot. If you can let us know more about what you do and who you are. I'm so happy that you guys are part of this panel. Thank you again. Second time for collaborating with us.
Second time, appreciate it. Hello from the West Coast in Seattle. My name is May Presuth, she, her. I'm with the Good Foot Arts Collective. I am the executive director, and we have been alive and kicking and going in the Seattle scene for 16 years. I've been a dancer. I got really into dancing when I was in college. Everybody has their own story, but I truly believe that dance and art in general has such a great purpose and call in everyone's lives, because movement really brings a lot of healing. And I truly believe that. But for us, and what we do in the Good Foot Arts Collective is youth violence prevention through arts education. And that's something that's just really avid, that we really believe that young people really need right now. And so Louie and I actually met dancing. I'm gonna let him share a little bit later, but we met dancing. We did not have a perfect relationship when we first started. And so a lot of the work that we do right now with the Good Foot and in youth violence prevention is because of our relationship, our journey, our healing, our therapy, a lot of trauma that we've had to deal with independently, and the trauma that we face together. So that's why we do a lot of the work that we do. And I don't want to speak for everybody, but I know for myself, a lot of people, are doing things for a cause because they want to see change, right? If there's been an impact on you, you are affected by that impact and you want to bring about change. And so that's what we want to do here. This is really important to us. April is important to us because we want to see change in the community. So I'm going to toss it over to Louie.
Yo, what up, everybody? I'm
So
Louie.
we met dancing.
Yeah, we did.
My bad.
All right, cool. I'm gonna keep going, but feel free to interrupt me. It's all good. First of all, thank you for continuing to create this space. Such an important focus. It's ongoing. This ain't just a read a book and go to a conference type thing. This is a lifestyle. Like, we want to see some change. And I'm talking to myself. So I've been dancing since high school. And I was part of a crew called Inner City Circle, growing up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. My parents are refugees. So growing up, you already know, like, poor music and dance and fighting. That was my, childhood. But again, hip hop was an escape. And then I also part of a crew in Europe, in Norway, called Flooristas. And, we did some Battle of the Year stuff. And so, again, just late 90s, early 2000s, I was heavily traveling and battling and all that. So all that to say, over the last 10 or so years of my life, we've been doing a lot of community work, nonprofit work, specifically around teen dating violence. We work in the local high schools. We have contracts with Seattle Public Schools. And we basically go in there with our curriculum and try to give a voice to the voiceless and bring this focus front and center, where a lot of times it's not talked about. It's, in a public setting, or it's happening on a regular, but we don't talk about it. We don't put language to it. So it's really, it's not fun work, not gonna lie. There's some things in my life I'm not proud of, and that's part of it's all threaded in the work that we do. So we have to be honest and self-reflective if we're gonna do some real work, you know what I'm saying? And hip hop's all about realness. So we gotta keep it real, you know what I'm saying? So happy to be here. I'll toss it back over to y'all.
All right. So Jolene, who do we have?
Thank you, Louie. Thank you for that. We appreciate you being here, for real. We really appreciate that.
To have a B-boy on the panel, to have a male perspective is super important, to be able to use your voice and share your perspective and journey. It takes a lot of courage, I feel like, as well. The hip hop culture has always been male dominated, and not that much females. And, us females alone are be representing, our own generation and here to, speak more about of topics like sexual awareness. So thank you, Louie. Who's next, Jolene? Who we got?
Next, we have the amazing Rockefeller. Please give us more of an introduction that we can, let the people know a little bit more about yourself and why you're here. And thank you for being here with us.
Well, peace, everybody. Just want to send vibrations of peace. We're here gathering just to learn and share and exchange, reflect and move forward, bring possible improvement and development and evolution. I've been dancing for a very long time. Before I became a B-girl, I was already dancing in the New York City streets and New York City clubs and parties. When I met Quickstep, we knew that breaking was going through a weird moment when no one was doing it. Hollywood said, you're not cool. And a lot of us, a lot of people changed their, what they were doing. But when me and Quick met, we were kind of like, this is a culture and we got to do something. And so he had already founded Full Circle as a crew. But then when I jumped on, we thought about making a nonprofit so that we can get some grants and some educational programming and just preserve, but also embrace what the newer generations were bringing to the table. Because we were dealing, it might have been, 94? So what was that youth generation doing? So we had to create a platform for storytelling, for education, for healing, but also for women. So once I joined the crew, then it was this idea of women get down. And if women are getting down and really doing exactly the same moves you're doing, then we should be also considered as equals. And so that was, providing an equitable environment for women to train and have performance opportunities and to speak and be interviewed. So that was pretty much what brought me and Quickstep and Full Circle together. And I think since 2020, because I just want to jump forward, I started to have these sexual harassment in the street dance scene discussions, and a lot was brought forth. So I'm really excited to join you all and to join the No Excuses collaborative effort, and the Flooristas, to also continue to use our voices to heal, but also improve and evolve, because the future is just a couple of steps away, and we have a chance to help bring forth a generation that will be just, better and happier and more successful, because when we're happy, we can succeed. So I'll keep it short. Peace.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the years, for everything, for setting the tone for so many women to see. And, Yeah, sometimes women can set the tone too for everybody. Don't gotta be just the
Yeah.
fellas. But next and not but last, we have Sandra, who is joining us. She came in kind of last minute with the panel. We are so excited to have her because she is definitely the expert. We want to make it really clear that even though we are speaking about this, most of us here are not professionals. We're not psychologists. So I just want to make it really clear to everybody, there is different training that some of us have, but we are not, we can't provide you therapy, but we will speak out, and that's exactly what we're doing this for. So Sandra, if you could let the people know a little bit more about yourself, and then we will get into these questions. If she's there, if Costa Rica is treating her well right now, let's see.
She's gonna have to unmute herself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, no. Can you hear me now? Okay, here we go. Unmuted. So, hey, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to this panel. I am not a dancer, though I love to dance, especially Latin dancing down here in Costa Rica. So my background is from the treatment perspective, sexual violence, assault, in the workplace. And one of the things that I can just put out there, it's just not, it's everywhere. The potential for sexual violence, for sexual abuse everywhere. And there's just not enough that we can do to make sure that our children are safe, that our adults are safe, that all of us feel that we can do what we do professionally or in our lives. And this has to be done all the time. We can't stop doing this. We have to start also with our children. I've always advocated, start talking about this with your children in a very simple way. My background, you know, and one of the things that surprised me in my caseload, I would say about 80 to 90% of my clients, there is some history of sexual violence. It touches everyone, and not just females, it's males. There is still a culture when children report someone touched me, or when even adults are saying, you know, I've been hurt. Women are still silenced. Women are told, you brought it on. And we all know that that is not true. It's not true. We did education that we can provide, the resources that we can provide, continuing to hold these forums. It has to continue. And I just think this is a wonderful opportunity for me, and I just thank you so much, Ntegrity, for inviting me. I know this has been work that she's been doing behind the... There is a big delay.
All right, I think we got
already, man. Oh no, what she just said was very powerful, man. I was already getting like, you know, teary-eyed. That's someone who's been, you know, working in this field for all her life. And I appreciate everyone who's here who is dedicating their life to this. And it's a sacrifice, you know, but it's a selflessness that, you know, you hold. If you feel it, then we continue and we're more powerful together. And to go into that, we're going to go into the first question. The first question is, what's the difference between prevention and intervention? And we're going to have May kicking it off, I believe. And then, yes.
Yep, I'm going to share a video, and Ntegrity is going to talk about it afterwards. Apologies for any tech issues, but let's stay put and let's stay glued.
She's going to help me talk about the 9 ways to protect yourself from abusive situations. 1, acknowledge when you don't feel safe and don't ignore that feeling. Trust your instincts. 2, remember that no means no. Even if you're a person that had previous sexual contact with is initiating, you are allowed to say no whenever you want. 3, Be aware of a person's past before being in a vulnerable position with them. Are they habitual abusers? Do they have unhealthy relationships? Have your girls told you anything about him to give you a heads up? How do others in your community view them?
4, stay alert at all times, especially when you're around new people. Do not let your guard down. Don't attend practices, jams, or competitions alone. Especially if you are female, go with at least one friend you can trust. Most women feel afraid when they're alone in strange places, while few men do. It's sad that women always have to be on the defense, but it's true. Survival mode in a male-dominated scene will help you do just that, survive.
5, stay with a trusted loved one at all times. Don't let them out your sight, or vice versa.
6, report any and all behavior that makes you feel uncomfortable to the appropriate authorities. It's always best to have a paper trail if you need to build a case later on down the road.
7, do not take drinks from anyone that you do not know or trust. Not one sip.
8, if you receive harassing or threatening messages online, do not interact. Screenshot the message, report it to the host. You can do this on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Gmail, Hotmail, and then block the sender. Keep the screenshot in a safe place to show to the authorities if necessary.
Number 9, if you are a victim who has filed a police report, you have the right to call the police department and ask them for an unredacted report. It will show you that every word the report tried to cut off, it won't cut it off. Nothing is crossed out.
Resources for survivor organizations that can help you if you are a survivor of sexual assault. Me Too movement.
Safe sport.
Protect NYC dancers.
Youth protective advocates in dance.
Dance safe.
All the ladies say.
Figo, her sturdy.
Homeboy Industries.
Break safe.
Therapeutic resources.
BetterHelp, online therapy.
PTSD chat.
Handbook of Sexual Assault and Sexual Assault Prevention.
Understanding Violence Against Women.
The Courage to Heal by Ellen Bass and Laura Davis.
In acknowledgement of the abusers, it's important to know that most people who are abusers are often acting with an abused soul. In other words, they have been abused too. This doesn't mean that they're allowed to lash out at others or be excused for their actions.
Wow.
Great, that was awesome.
Oh, bravo. Thank you, May, for being our technical sharing expert.
I
Right
got
there.
you.
Yeah,
got
that
you.
was amazing, amazing. And
Thank
do you
you,
want
Ntegrity,
to
for making that. That was awesome,
Yeah.
Ntegrity. Thank
you
you.
want to add onto that? Really great resources at the end.
Yeah, so the two things I wanted to bring up that are often in discussion, especially with females, is the one going to events, with somebody that you trust or a trusted loved one. Some women in the community, even men, feel that they don't have to, that they should just respect you and as a person, as a human being, and not cross those boundaries. And for me, although I would love the world to be that. A lot of the time, women and children are targeted first when it comes to any type of harassment in general. So for me, although I resonate with those women and men that feel that way, I just have to let them know that it's all about being safe, right? And call it your physical structure, children and women, you will just be targeted first. Hopefully we will get better in society as a whole. But that is one thing that I definitely did want to bring up. Everything else, as far as the therapeutic resources, the preventative measures are all there. And all those were given by my personal experiences. And I tried to make sure that we relate it to our scene. And that being said, the Goodfoot, Miss May and Louie have created this amazing book that I'm so excited for her to introduce. So I'm not going to do the introductions there, but I will just say that it's something that's going to help our scene and be specifically for that. So May, take it away.
Thank you.
Can I just add something?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Can I just add a couple of resources? Your National Organization for Victim Assistance. You've got your National Sexual Assault Hotline. I think it would be helpful just to put those numbers out, that this is something you should, maybe it's something we should automatically put in our phones and teach our children, particularly adolescents. A lot of adolescents today are being victimized and with dating, a lot of dating violence, and they're not aware that what's happening to them is wrong, that they, such as you've mentioned, the ability to say no. Another thing is trusting your instinct. If you are feeling within your body when this person is present that something is wrong or something off, I think we need to teach women, children, adolescents, trust that instinct. That's telling you, and usually that instinct is correct. Get out of there, move out, talk to somebody else, question it, and know that it's okay to question that there's something wrong. I'm feeling it, because we often feel it in our body first before we make that cognitive connection that something is wrong.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Sandra, for sharing a lot of that. And speaking to that, if we are talking about how are we going to share these resources and tackle a lot of these issues at a younger age, that is why prevention is so needed right now. So speaking of, the question is, what is the difference between prevention and intervention? So intervention is when something is happening, you know, if a lot of people have heard of bystander intervention. So something is happening, it's in your face, it's in the present, it's in the moment. What are you going to do? You're going to react, you're going to respond, you're going to get help, you're going to shy away, you're going to isolate. In those moments, that is intervention that's happening. You're going to make a choice to intervene in that moment. However, we want to take a couple steps back and really focus on prevention. Prevention precludes everything that's happening that's already in the progress, right? So we want to minimize the risk of when something is already progressing. So prevention is so key right now. And there's a lot of talk. I mean, even in the administration, they're talking about a lot of prevention access that they want to give out to the whole country in general. And then even for Seattle and the Pacific Northwest, a lot of the prevention measures and funding is going towards organizations that are community-based to help tackle things at an earlier age. So I want to toss it over to Louie, though, when we're talking about prevention, because a lot of times, again, I was teaching these classes for teen dating violence. And then, you know, even in the scene with a lot of dancers, it was like in that moment, like, I can't name these things. And then so you have to do a bunch of education around that. But that's where we want to take it a step back and talk about that prevention. So I'm going to toss it to Louie.
I mean, yeah, I think from my personal experience, and again, I just want to put out there that I'll speak from my own personal growth and self-learning about this. And again, I want to be sensitive to this space because, you know, this is such a sensitive and delicate topic because of so much trauma. And we know historically, like, this is a part of our society. This is a fabric of our society. It hasn't gone away. It's always been there historically, that there's a pattern of men abusing women, boys abusing girls, taken advantage of, women being minimized, their voices being shut down. I mean, having like voting rights, the fact that they had to fight for voting rights, you know, things like that. So like, we have historical moments that kind of prove that we don't have to sell this idea to y'all. Like, this is for real. We just have to be honest about it. And so, yeah, I mean, just to back up what May is saying, we want to get ahead of it. So most of our work is around recognizing warning signs. Like, not even if you're in an intimate relationship with somebody, if kids are acting this way, if you're behaving this way around control, power, manipulation, who you know, why are you kicking it with them? Why are you being a little bitch? Blah, blah, blah. Like, all that is toxic language, you know what I'm saying? And I think our society accepts it because it's all over social media, hip hop culture, like, celebrates it on some level. And again, there's no disrespect there. It's just, we got to be honest about the outcomes and the consequences, good and bad, of our actions. You know what I'm saying? So again, just putting language and letting the youth, in our context, the youth, understand what they're experiencing, right, is key to prevention. Understanding that, you know, power and control is not cool. Being groomed is not okay. And recognizing when they're being groomed. You know what I'm saying? Being touched. inappropriately. Like, you know, a person's body, that there has to be, you know, there has to be boundaries that are set, you know, having self-respect and things like that. So that's that's a big focus on why we do prevention and how we do prevention within the school system, you know. So, but again, May said it beautifully. Like, we want to get ahead of it. We don't always want to wait till crisis mode or the afterthought, right? Typically, like, the abuse and all these things it's like an afterthought. It's like, how did this happen? I wonder how this happened. Man, we know damn well how it happened. We've seen it. Like, we encouraged it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we celebrated it. Like, we told them to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what's going on. And then we don't realize how damaging it is, you know, to our sisters. And so, I mean, that's my own self journey too. I had to recognize what I was doing to my wife. I mean, thank God I never hit her. Thank God I never, like, you know, did something crazy, sexually assaulted her, nothing like that. But again, my attitude, my tone, my anger, my intimidation, all those things cause trauma. You know what I'm saying? And you can't fix it with just buying a pair of shoes or taking a trip. You can't fix it like that. It has to be some straight up accountability. Like, I had to go get help, you know, for my issues and recognize why I was doing what I was doing. So I'll stop there.
Thank you, Louie. Thank you, Louie. Thank you, May, on that. So prevention. So the first question, in case y'all missed that, was what's the difference between prevention and intervention? Does anybody have any comments left on that before we go to the next one?
I would actually like you guys to explain grooming and maybe some examples of within a relationship in particular, like verbally, what are those things to identify with, you know. I think that would be really beneficial to our scene.
Yeah, I'll jump in and I'll toss it to me. I'll just be real quick though. You know, grooming is when somebody that has more influence, that's more older, that's more emotionally literate around how to take advantage of people, how to gaslight. Gaslighting is basically, you know, blaming the victim for why things are wrong or why they're feeling the way they're doing. And so somebody that's older and that has bad intentions they're ultimately the most selfish person you can meet, right? And they are grooming somebody to understand, think, and believe that whatever the groomer says is reality. So they're confusing fantasy versus reality, and that's what happens within grooming. So you have a young person who's emotionally compromised, like maybe they grew up, you know, without no love, you know, broken home, and they're looking for something real. Someone else comes along, they're like, yo, you know, I got you, you know, you're my girl. I'm gonna take you to the next level, make all these promises, but at the end of the day, they just want to smash. They want to use them for their own sexual pleasure. They want to use them for their own selfish agenda, whether that be like, you know, extorting them, but really it's to fulfill to gratify their own like behavior and desires. You feel me? They don't really care about who they're grooming. They just want to get theirs. That's exact classic grooming. And it starts from a friendship. Like, it starts from many different levels. We see a lot of it happening online right now. You know what I'm saying? So that's my articulation of what grooming is.
Yeah, I'm just gonna share my screen real quick, just so you guys can see. This is actually a part of our No Excuses training manual that we have. We have a lesson on predatory grooming. So there's certain stages of grooming, and I'll go just through them really fast. Like, usually a predator is gonna target somebody. So it's preconceived. It's not just by accident. There's a preconceived desire that's already happening. So there's somebody that they're determining that they're going to target. The second point, that usually it escalates in this way, that they're going to try to gain trust in the ways that Louie was talking, right? Maybe they know some examples of what happened. Maybe they know about your trauma. Maybe they know about your home life, maybe something, and then try to use that to manipulate, to gain that trust. And then try to provide some sort of safety on their end to gain that trust for you. And then isolation happens. As soon as the trust is gained, there's power, there's control over that person's life that's being harmed. They will isolate them from loved ones, from people in their community, from their dance crew, from their friends, from their siblings, from anybody, right? And then it moves into assault and then desensitization. It moves into, that is where the progression really happens, because everything is behind closed doors. It's very covert. The isolation has already happened. And then there's an increase of physical violence. There's already manipulation, gaslighting, emotional and psychological abuse. And it can move into sexual abuse. And then once all of that has been catered in that relationship, then the maintenance happens, right? That is where it starts to move towards what Louie was talking about. The secrecy, the blaming, the threats to maintain that control starts to happen. And I'm sure Sandra can speak on this a little bit too, but I'm really understanding that this is why we have to name this stuff, right? This is why we have to understand that there is a progression that does happen. It is not by accident, and we have to bring these warning signs to young people, to anybody, so that they can identify it quickly.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. Sandra, I believe you have a great resource and well, information. Can you please share the power and control wheel? To unmute.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm on now. I'm also going to share my screen. One of the things that's either a great tool, either for prevention, but it's also great for intervention. It's something that I've used in my practice with many individuals, histories of trauma. It's called the power and control wheel. If I can share this, can you see this here?
Double click to enter full screen mode.
Can you see that?
I think it's coming. I think it's just a little delayed. Give it a second.
Mm-hmm.
Give it a little bit more. Is anybody else seeing it?
So
I don't think we have it up yet, Sandra.
I have a power control wheel that I could share if that's helpful. Oh, there we go. There we go.
There you go. We got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Good time. I see. Okay, go ahead, Sandra.
I could talk about it while it's coming up.
Yes.
Let me see. Okay. Oh, perfect. Okay, so this is a wonderful resource, which actually, so what you can do with this power control is demonstrate the behaviors that an abuser would.
Oh, and we lost her. So maybe Ntegrity, if you want to send her a text or a message and just let her know, and then she can probably jump back in probably for the Q&A if anything.
Yes.
Yes, because we're getting so much good information and we don't want to lose it. So that we'll have her jump back in and we'll go ahead and jump to question 2. Is that good with everybody? Yep. All right. Question 2 we have is, what does respect and boundaries look like in the scene? Because honestly, we're just talking about grooming. I never really heard about that until the Me Too movement came out. So there's a lot of different things that we probably didn't recognize because we weren't even taught it. So what does respect and boundaries look like in the scene? Sexual assault, we all know, can happen anywhere. So can we get some examples from that? I have Ntegrity. Ntegrity, you got that?
Want to kick it in?
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. A lot going on.
I thought May was going in and me. My bad.
All goody.
Yeah. So as far as respect is concerned, the biggest thing that I've learned is yes and no. And I think that goes over your head real quick. Well, maybe they didn't have that intention. I'm, trying to kind of think in your mind, you go through this process and procedure of saying, maybe they were going through something, it wasn't towards you. You're already self-doubting yourself before you even start. At the end of the day, when she's talking, Sandra just said it, herself, your body tells you a lot. If you feel tense, which a lot of the times your sternum, you begin to close a little bit, your body language begins to change, your friends can even notice it, especially within your voice. If it starts to get tight, if your heart starts to race, we call that an anxiety attacks, I didn't learn that until later, but it's because your body is literally warning you that this is not a safe space for you. So for me, yes and no was huge. Knowing that at any time, when you say no, it means no. That means that you don't touch me. That means that you don't talk to me disrespectfully. What is not talking to you disrespectfully? Obviously calling you out your name, saying things that are going to hurt you, not just like saying I'm going to hurt you, but they could say things like, well, if you don't do this, then I'm not going to come to, I'm not going to come to your event, or I'm not going to come to your party if I don't get what I want. That's pretty much what they're saying, interpretation, but they might say a different way. It might be, well, I know you want me to be a part of it. And if you do this for me, it'll make it a lot easier. So all you have to do is just, do what I say, and then this can be easy. We can just move on. So for me, like the biggest thing I could ever tell anybody is yes and no. Like you need to be able to identify with yourself, because everybody's different what their yes and no looks like, but you need to be able to identify with yourself what that means to you. And to me, it's anything that is causing you to second guess yourself. If you're second guessing yourself, you should already be out, like, period. There's nothing else I could honestly say about that. But that's the first thing I would say. Chiming in on to May.
Well, I actually would like to ask Rockefeller to share too, because you have a wealth of wisdom and just your experience in the scene too. So I would love to hear your thoughts.
Thank you, May, and Ntegrity. When I think of respect and boundaries in breaking, or in hip hop in particular, I came in watching what the guys were doing, and respect and boundaries is pretty clear with them. They know who they can hang out with, who they can like jump in and, get a ride with or go practice with, and it's subtle, they're not like, hey, I'd like to be your friend. It's subtle, but it's like communicated through proximity, or am I coming back to this, this area or this practice? And so for women, it should be the same if the woman is self-sufficient. So by the time I came to breaking, I had already danced on the street, and unfortunately, had to go through some situations to learn what boundaries and respect are as a woman on the street, dancing on Times Square or whatever, subways, where audience members would just come up and swear that I was going to go home with them just because they put money in my pocket, which is like, no, you can keep your money. I got money. But with breaking, because I'm coming into a space where I don't have that many moves, I have to stand and be like, I'm okay. No, I really don't want you to teach me. I don't want to go practice with you. I'm going to decide who I'm going to hang out with. And it rubbed a couple of people, fellas, kind of off, like, oh, she's mean, or she's not down with the get down. But I'm down with a specific get down, the moves. And the thing about breaking is that it takes long to get good. You don't get good quick. Shout to Quick Step. You don't get good like that. And so you do have to be around people that are willing to invest with nothing else, with no other desire to get in. And that's the hard part. So as young women who are not being, informed on how to set boundaries and, judge some characters out there. Okay, that one is being a little bit too, standing too close to me, or offering way too many tips that I didn't ask about this certain windmill, or someone just touched me trying to teach me. That doesn't feel right. So I think that there's a lot to be said about the way men handle their interactions with how women are accepting interactions without saying, oh no, that actually wasn't funny, or nope, don't want to get in your car, don't want to practice with you, and I still think you're cool, but I don't want to practice with you. So you know, respect and boundaries, we have a lot still of work to do, but I think if women, the older women, can help the younger women when they're coming in, to just usher them a bit and just say, hey, you know, if you feel like you only want to practice with me or another young, you know, sister, or do it. There's nothing wrong with you saying no. So I know there's stuff that the women have to do in terms of lending a helping hand to newer, younger women that are coming. And then there's a lot that men also have to do to try to, you know, restrain themselves from a program that's been playing out in their psyche through music, movies, and just messaging. It's a lot of work, but I'll keep it brief because I know that you all have a whole manual on it.
May, do you want to go deeper with that, or with the manual?
Actually, Louie, I could tell he wants to share something. I'm gonna toss it to him.
Yeah, I think all good perspectives, on point. I think it's just that, you know, there's no reason, I think, to put hands on anybody, whether it's, you know, out of jealousy or whatever, or, you know, not everything is sexual. You know what I'm saying? I think, again, like what Rock is talking about is there's been a conditioning, especially for young men. Like, you have uncles, you have the OGs talking about, man, you better get this booty, you better, like, you know, don't be weak. If you don't have females and you're weak. And there's this idea, there's this tape playing in a lot of kids' heads that this is the way to be, like this toxic masculinity, right? And not gonna lie, I bought into that myself, right? I had to be strong, can't show emotion, you know, I gotta have the dopest moves, I gotta crush everybody, and you know, this bravado kind of style and arrogance about you. And all that's well and cool, but just know, like that stuff can stay on the stage. You know what I mean? That stuff can stay, like, there's a time and place for that. Like, and so again, like the big word is the C word, like consent. You know, I've learned over the years, like, again, as a kid growing up, that I thought females were feeling me, and, you know, like we vibing out and there's music and, you know, we kicking it. And so there's no, like, you're even if you're like feeling it, like I've learned to just be like, yo, unless like you have a straight up conversation and, you know, and it's a clear yes, just don't do it. Just don't do it. And, you know, if you don't want nobody touching on you all weird, like that's a stranger, just don't be doing it to nobody else, like straight up, just the golden rule. So that's how I'll share about that. And I'm speaking to whoever's going to be listening to this too. Like I'm a dude, I get it. I know the toxicity, I come from it, you know what I'm saying? And so like, I know the game. So I'll toss it back to May.
Yeah, I'm not gonna share too much on it because I know we got to move too, but, you know, I'm gonna share my screen real quick and just show anything that you're seeing on the screen. This is part of our No Excuses training manual, and it's specifically written to the scene. There's a lot of things that Rock and Louie just said when we really have to break down cultural microaggressions. Again, it is unlearning what society has taught us that has been toxic, period. That's why things are unspoken, they are spoken. There might just be body language, but just like Louie said, a no means no, and a maybe does not mean yes. You know what I'm saying? So we have to break down everything from media and ads, really rethinking about, like, what have I grown up in? What do I have to really unlearn that's making me think that it's okay for me to do X, Y, and Z? So we go through that a lot. We have a lot of activities that we go through in this. We talk about verbal and physical expressions. What does power and control look like even in those moments? And then, you know, even as Sandra was going into, was the power and control wheel. And I'm not going to go any further, but, you know, this is so important, y'all. It is so, so important. This is not just for our scene. This is a worldwide epidemic. For power and control, sexual harassment and violence. And this is where we really want to stop it before it begins. So I'm going to end right there for that.
Awesome. And thank you everyone for your personal response and your answers. And just to go back, the question was, what does respect and boundaries look like in the scene? Sexual assault is prevalent everywhere, right? How are we addressing respect and boundaries in general? So I actually want to take it another step further with this. What about the people and some B-boys who have already crossed that boundary? How do they start to self-heal? How are there, what we can do in the community, you know what I mean, as bystanders, wanting, justice, and just, for those actually, stand up for their wrongdoing and learn how to educate themselves. Is there any way that we can suggest to other communities, or any, personal experiences that we can suggest for everyone in the community to help? Because sometimes that's kind of hard. We know there are some people out there that are predators, and it's such a sensitive topic. But what are your suggestions and thoughts about that? Like, how do we get them help? Obviously, the victim is first, foremost, getting help for them too. But what's the other part that needs to happen for us to move forward as well in healing as a culture and community? That's why I want to ask everyone.
I know Sandra had some things that she wanted to mention, so I don't know if she wanted to add to all that.
She had just hopped off a little bit,
Oh.
so she's gonna try to log back in again, but she
No
actually
worries.
she actually had asked if May, we're texting, if May could go over the wheel. She thinks it's going to be very helpful for the scene.
Yeah.
So before we get into any of that, I don't know if we want to go back to that, or if we want to just answer the question. So it's up to you guys.
I think it ties in. That ties in. Sharing the wheel ties in, and we have our own resource wheel, and we basically customize it based to make it more relevant to the youth culture and the hip hop culture. It's the same pretty much content, but go ahead and bring that up, May. You can speak on it. I can always share on it too, so it's whatever.
Yeah, Louie, actually, can you start talking about working with somebody who has been in the scene that has harmed other people, and it has been habitual, and maybe that they have been excommunicated, or they've been, people all know about it, but what are we going to do? Because we know hurt people. So we really want to address exactly what Genesis was talking about. So Louie, why don't you talk about that? I'm going to pull up the power control wheel on my side.
Yeah, I think I'll draw from just legal experience, knowing young men that have were arrested for being violent towards their partners. And so what happens is there's legal mandated, anger management classes. Essentially, there's accountability for people like that, right? And so that's kind of like, again, crisis mode. You call 911, the person gets arrested, the victim actually presses charges. So there's a legal process to it. And that is the accountability. Person goes to jail. Hopefully that's their rock bottom. They have some kind of, revelation, and then they want to make some change, right? If not, then they will continue down that path, and it'll be financial consequences and incarceration type consequences too. And it's on their record, right? And, the other part of it is specific to the scene. Now that element of accountability still applies. Now, remember, if you're a dope B-boy, you're a judge, you're an OG, like none of that matters in the real world. Like, what I'm saying? Again, hip hop is real. I get it. But at the end of the day, like behavior, there's consequences, good and bad, and there's laws to sexual harassment and rape and all these things. So I just want to bring that up. Like, don't get it twisted. Like for guys that think that they're on this cloud nine, like this God level, like you're not above the law. You know what I'm saying? Evidence proves stuff, and there's the pattern, and you will be found out. And that's the reality of it. You'll come back to earth real quick. So I think to really set that up is to have these conversations, talk to promoters about being upfront about creating a safe space, put language around specific boundaries, let them know like, hey, this is a safe space specifically, for women. We want to encourage their creativity and freedom of expression here. So and for us, for our studio, we'll have community agreements. Like, this is what you're signing up for. When you come in here, this is how we're going to respect each other. And if, and also set up protocols for victims that don't feel safe, if they have somebody to go to, and have training for security. So those are like the nuts and bolts of how we would create safe space within the scene that we're starting to live into on our end. But then also for the repeat offender, one, I would say nobody wakes up one day and we do this focus on like supporting, getting help for the abuser. Like there are a percentage of men and guys who are bent on violence and predatory activities. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of times abusers also don't wake up one day and just want to abuse. There's a lot of things that happen in their past trauma that never got dealt with. And so we try to find counseling and connect them with accountability as well. But again, if somebody continues to be unsafe, my recommendation is they have to be removed from the scene until there's a sense of ownership and accountability and an action steps outside of like a Facebook post saying, I'm sorry this, I'm sorry that. But then there was really no closure, you know, for the victim and things like that. So there has to be, and again, I'm speaking in generalities because what's going on in New York and those specific situations are different than what would be going down in Seattle with the individuals here. So there has to be a customized approach for the unique scenarios. However, there should be a theme of accountability, being challenged, and a general sense that this behavior is not accepted, you know, in our culture. So that's what I'd say about that.
Thank you, Louie. That was really great. So we're actually going to move forward on the next question because we were trying to save time for more Q&A. And the Q&A will add the power control wheel. So we're going to save that towards the end. So the next question actually is, resources and education can feel overwhelming sometimes. When can someone start? You know, you already mentioned, Louie, creating a safe space. Is there anything in addition from everyone from the panel that they can add to this answer to the question?
I think for the majority of us, if we haven't been a part of helping promote a jam or event, we've been behind it to help facilitate it. So for me, I think it would also be really helpful for anybody who has a jam, like, you know, to talk to the promoter. What does the boundaries look like? You know, where can, if I don't feel safe, you know, how can you guys help me? I think those things can also be addressed. And also for creating safe spaces, I think a lot of the times we get afraid to even talk about it. I know from my personal experience, I was definitely one of the silent ones, you know. I didn't want anybody to kind of put all the attention on me. I also was going in my head about overreacting to things. I wasn't sure if what I was feeling was correct or not. And a lot of the times, these events that we go to, we all know, where do you stay? If you can stay in a hotel. If you can, you're probably staying at a friend's house and you probably train with them and you probably work with them, you know. So when you get into those spaces, I think if anybody wants to chime in on that, you know, how to identify creating a safe space, like maybe you're in a separate room, that might be a good start. But I don't really know because everybody has a different experience. So you guys can take it away.
Yeah, one of the things that we do talk about, it is in our manual as well. And I don't mean to brush through it visually for y'all, and it's kind of small anyways, but again, it's just, we want to make sure that folks that really, really want to do the work, that they could contact us about it too. But we have a whole part where it's about creating safe spaces, and it's really thinking through for yourself. Like if people were to come and ask us like, oh, what should I do? Well, what kind of protocol should I have? If we were just to hand it over to you, one, we're doing the work for you. Two, we don't know your community. We don't know your people. We don't live in your city. We don't know the laws. We don't know, you know, X, Y, and Z. And so it's better if we can help generate some questions around, if you're going to partner with the public space, what is that going to look like? If there's going to be an after party, what are some protocols that you want there? If there's an organizer working with you, you know, what are some values that you want your organizer to have? What does safety and security look like? Asking those questions, the front end, the back end. Are you guys doing sweeps in the bathrooms even? Where are you located during your jam? What is happening afterwards that you might know that there's maybe not just an after party, but you know, there's going to be a panel or there's going to be like a session later. Who's leading those sessions? Who's leading those things? so that it's not about keeping tabs, but it's really just keeping your radar open to protect your scene, know what's really going on. Just thinking about these considerations is going to be really good to help formulate what is customizable for your space. And then you are also taking ownership to do the work, because we all got to do the work. Nobody can hand the work over to you, because if you don't believe that for yourself, nothing's going to change. So we want to see people doing the work themselves in those spaces. I don't know if Louie or Rocky, if there's anything you want to add to that.
I really like this manual. I would love to get copies. This is great work, and I applaud and commend you for the time it took to put this together, and that you have to print and ship and all the work. So just applauding and commending you. I know there's still more work to be done, but I think also just to add that if you're in a crew, the crew itself has to meet outside of practice. It should meet outside of going to a jam. There should be moments of social interaction. A lot of us go to break because there's nothing else. There's nothing at home. There's no family life. And so, we're coming from a place of neglect into what we hope will be a place of acceptance and belonging, and eventually, fame and popularity and money, right? Because we all want to work. And if we can work in our passion, we did it, for a long time. Performance and artistic expressions has been historically the way to leave, to change your circumstances. But if you are in a crew, if you're in a group, it's great that your focus is to be amazing and to win trophies and prizes. That's great. But there's more. There's more. And so I really do want to encourage people, since 2020, when we started having these discussions nationally about the breaking scene and the Olympics and, Blackness, whatever, it was great because we were coming together without trying to win a trophy. I was looking at you not as my opponent, just looking at you as another dancer who loves the same music that I love, who chose to do top rock and then footwork, and then we agreed to do this. So it's great to see each other as more than just the opponent that I have to get through so I can get to the other bracket and get closer to the prize. So if we can kind of step outside of that format, that standard, that competitive thing that keeps our community saturated with that. And we're teaching the young kids to also see each other as that as well. If we can start to have dinners, birthday parties, let's do a wedding, let's do a tribute to some people who passed away, let's do a movie night, and we screen. I think that we start to see each other as people, and we can start to say to each other, are you okay? Oh, there's new people coming into this crew. Should we talk about some things with them? What are the goals here? Do you need help? So that's just one thing I want to say that can help on the crew facet of this, because yes, studio and space and organizing, yes, we need to, if we're all gathering, we're a bunch of people, yes, I love this part of the manual. And I just want to add that we have to start to see each other as people who love to dance and who want to belong. We want to belong so bad. We're coming from places of pain and neglect, generationally almost, if we're immigrants, if we're, so anyway, just wanted to add that.
Yeah. Can I just refer back real quick too, because I don't know if we fully, I just want to close that there was a discussion just about the harm that was caused by somebody. And I know that we kind of talked about it, but there, in a lot of places, there has been a longevity in restorative justice and transformative justice work. And I just really want to put that out there. A lot of cities have this. It's in your own backyard. We got to do the homework to find spaces where those that have caused harm, there is spaces for them to have leadership circles, restorative justice work, so that there's a way that they are able to enter in. And I think that that's where a community can really come together to talk about that. What does it look like if somebody were to continually habitually cause harm, but then what does restorative justice look like for them? There's going to be consequences. There's going to be time that has to happen. There's going to be work, right? What organizations, what crews, what people are we going to have to come surround that person to help And again, we all have to be a part of that work. So I just wanted to come around and bring a closure to that conversation as well.
And I just wanted to say, off of what May's saying, for me, like I always say that, if somebody's going to hurt you, it's always coming from like an abused soul. They don't mean to do that. They just want to, they disturb your peace, and I'm sorry for that. But at the same time, Rock and I talk about this a lot. It really is so simplistic. It's about reconciliation and to get help. If you can do that and apologize and just be like, hey, I'm so sorry, I was acting out of character. What ends up happening is they're fighting. They're fighting to prove that they're right. And they're trying to do any which way that they can to do that, to convince you that they're not a bad person, that they won't hurt you because they're worried about what everybody else thinks. And we're not perfect. There's no really room to like judge. I'm not saying that you have to forgive to forget, but I'm saying that if you just take the moment to just take accountability and say, hey, look, you apologizing is also apologizing to yourself. It's also forgiving yourself. It's also allowing yourself to say, hey, look, I need help and I want to get better, So I think we're all in the business of like making sure people can be healthy and get better. So to anybody who is, victimizing in any type of way, verbally, physically, just know that we're not trying to target you as this, huge bad person. We're just saying, please get help, because it'll make our community a lot better and a lot safer.
Thank you everyone for all the comments, all the resources, everything. May, is it possible we can go a little bit deeper with what the manual is about? Like, what is this manual that we keep seeing? What did it come from? Who is going to be giving it to? Because I think that's going to be the main resource for the community, because it's dedicated to the community, correct? If you can just give us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, let me just share my screen. I am share my screen tonight. Let me see. Can you guys see this?
Loading up, yeah, right now. It should be
okay.
Right now. Yep.
So we'll go back to this Ntegrity, but the No Excuses campaign, I just really want to give a shout out to all the people that were a part of it. It was made during the pandemic, like when everything was really on lockdown. We had a panel of youth from high schools. We had educators in public schools, preventionists, legal advocates, folks from the scene, Asia, Cindy, a Big Girl Emerge, Jose, Poe, Will, Goodman. We had a lot of people that just really cared so much and was really doing the work. A part of this in our staff, our graphic designer, shout out Chris Kaku, our board members, Omega Watts and Christy, and a bunch of us, a lot of our interns, our volunteers, Nicolay and Chas, they put a lot of work into this. And really
hold up. And May, Pray Sooth, y'all, she made it happen. Making sure we all showed up, making sure we're compensating people.
Hi, May.
Like we had to get money to like take care of these people's hours, like you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times hip hop, we try to get stuff from people and not pay them. Like she took care of people, yo, like straight up for their time, blessed them, like dignified it. You feel me? So May.
Thank you, appreciate that. Yeah, it was a labor of love indeed. But I just wanted to give you like a really quick snapshot. So the overview and purpose of this is really because we just saw a need. The need's been there, right? The need has been there and we got to name it. We're not doing anything new. There's been anti-violence movements in the hip hop community from the beginning. So we're not doing anything new. We're just naming things more. We're in a progressive space. We're able to put language to things now. We have funding resources. And so with the No Excuses, these topics and these lessons that you see right here on your screen is what we cover, right? So we talk again about the beginning of anti-violence. We move into gender-based violence statistics. What is the reality of what's really happening right now? How do we understand prevention in the space? We talked about prevention versus intervention. And then we do community agreements to move into, okay, if we are going to talk about like like we had talked about before, cultural microaggressions, attitudes and beliefs. We're going to talk about violence in the community. We're going to unpack some of the things that we've already learned. We have to have community agreements to move forward together, to what Ntegrity was saying, to move towards reconciliation and some change that is going to truly, truly bring unity in the scene. So we break down a lot of things, even what Sandra's talking about with the power and control wheel. It's naming warning signs. So what power and control is, it's really just naming warning signs. And I'll put that up in a little bit as well. But a lot of people too, if you're living in trauma and you're living in this habitual cycle of toxic relationships, which we don't even know that we enter into, like that's how I grew up too. We won't know what a relationship that's healthy looks like. So then we start talking about like the equality wheel. What does it mean to have equality in a relationship, having shared power, making sure that there is real communication, talking about and unpacking respect. We move into predatory and grooming and consent. We already shared about that. And then in the moments where we talked about in that intervention space, what does bystander intervention and reporting look like? I know a lot of us here know who Break Safe is. Shouts to Break Safe. We've been in great relationship with Break Safe and with Amy and Will, who's been there from the get, just really providing resources. And we're all learning and growing, y'all. None of us are perfect. So we're also trying to figure it out too, right? And we got to come together with it. But how can we give steps and strategies in those spaces and in those moments so that we can do better? So a lot of the culminating parts of this is really to say, hey, you know what, we recognize that there's a problem, let's call it that. But what we also recognize is we love our community and we want to see our community thrive. Let's take some steps to do it together. Let's actually put some action steps, come together and link arms and say, we can't all figure it out by ourselves. Let's just come together and really move as one in this, right? So this training manual, we are launching it. I shouldn't say launch, because really nothing is really being launched again. We're just doing the work and we want to see the work change people's lives and our own lives. But we in Seattle, we're hoping to do a first training session here for community members, for crews, for leaders that are throwing jams, anybody. And from there, we want to train other people who want to train others in their cities, right? It has to be a multiplication effect. And that's what we want to see. So I want to toss it to Louie or Ntegrity or Rock, if you want to share anything just about what we want to see happen in our community.
Can you just clarify it? So the manual, there's a manual that is a physical book that is a companion piece for our facilitation. So again, we implement the training with the booklet. So I know lots of people are asking for the booklet, so we're actually reordering a new batch to send out, and we're talking about how to get that to folks. But then May, can you clarify just the online resource that they could look at now?
Yeah, if you, Louie, you can put it, or Genesis, if you can put it in the chat, you can just put, it's our website and then /flipbook. And
yeah, I was gonna put that in.
This is part of it. Again, shout out to Chris Kaku. So this flip book is another resource that were made from our panelists and mostly by our young people. So everything that you see here, the characters, the clothing that they're wearing, everything was all by our youth panelists. And they're created scenarios that they felt were very, very important to address. So we talk about gaslighting, we talk about threats, we talk about jealousy, we talk about peer pressure, sexual assault. But then we don't just kind of move into that, but the online resources is really to help move into, okay, if this is happening, what's really happening in that moment? What are some lifelines that we can have and that we can really name? What is the opposite of what jealousy is? How do I unpack all of that right now? And then what are some questions that I can really ask and consider for myself? So if you guys go online and you go to our website, you can say, put / the flip book, and you'll find that there's 6 scenarios in there. And I want to also say that a lot of these toxic behaviors, if we're going through trauma, it really affects our mental health. So even with this drawing right here, we really wanted to highlight how mental health and toxic relationship abuse, there is such a huge correlation with that. And we want to make sure that we are helping young people and people in the scene to find resources and, again, name, identify, and then move towards safe action. Did you want to share more about that, Louie?
About the booklet or?
Yeah, about the booklet or the manual.
Right, it's just a labor of love. Yeah, these are, you know, like we have so much passion for the hip hop scene. We have so much passion for dance and music and recognizing artists. This has to also become a passion, you know, creating safe space and, you know, protecting one another and, you know, just really taking ownership of the whack history that a lot of me and my fellow, you know, my brothers have lived into, you know what I'm saying? And we need to evolve as a society. We have, and we need to continue to do that same thing within the hip hop scene. Like we can't stay here, you know what I'm saying? Like we can't, like this is not a new conversation, and we need to stop hurting like our sisters, like stop taking advantage of them. And like straight up, that we have to, this has to become a core value, because we value all these other things. We'll put time and energy into like winning everything, but then we got to win at this, you know what I'm saying? Like it's been long overdue, you know what I'm saying? So that's why we did it. It wasn't like one specific moment that led us to it. It wasn't like, you know, the stuff with, you know, I'm not gonna drop no names, but you know, the high profile cases. Like this work has been happening, you know, and it's time for it to really become front and center. Like we actually need to put all hands on deck on this. So yeah.
Amazing work. Amazing work.
I just want to add real quickly that for those sisters and for the women, you know, this thing that happens divides the community. And so that division can destroy the community completely. You know, in certain cities, certain communities, breaking has just kind of disappeared because there's a lack of courage to stand against power hoarders, gatekeepers, predators. So, you know, this is all part of this whole, you know, idea that we have to humiliate and destroy each other in order for us to rise. Right. And so it's hard, it's not easy. And I'm talking to the sisters out there who feel like, well, he didn't do that to me, so, you know, I'm still cool with him. You can be cool with him. And if you really want to be his friend, help him. Don't just practice with him and keep, you know, everything's okay. Everything's not okay for some of the people he interacted with. So you really still love this person. You need to help him get the counseling and help him get to the other side, because he's stuck. And that's not love. You know, I always, you know, compare it to like if you have a family member who is an addict, you still love your sister, brother, whatever, but they're an addict. And so it's hard. It divides the family, because some of the families like, well, why are you still giving him money? And why you still let him in your house? Well, because I love her. You know, I love her. If you love her, tough love, you need to take them to get counseling. You need to help them. So yes, the scene can be divided because of these patterns that we're falling into of enabling and just cover up. Nobody knows. But if you really love that person, and if that person didn't do it to you, but you know it's happening, have them in a space of love and courage and pushing them towards their better selves, because breaking can end behind all these little whack, like you said, Louie, whack programming that has been happening to us. So for the sisters out there, again, if you've been programmed to believe that the only way you exist is by attaching yourself to someone, anyone, that has to change. Right. And for the sisters who are like, well, he didn't do anything to me. Okay, that's actually wonderful, because now you are in a position of closeness and trust. You can take that person and go get the counseling and the help. So that's just something I wanted to say out there.
Yo, Rock, like everything you just dropped right now is basically what is embedded in the curriculum that is in the manual. We just have more ample time to walk it, to live into it and talk about it in a controlled group setting. Again, when we make it optional, when we make it like, yo, sign up for this conference if you're like passionate about this, like the ones that need to hear it, they ain't gonna show up. You know what I'm saying? Like the ones that really need to, that are repeat offenders, like if it's an optional thing, you know, it ain't. They're gonna keep turning a blind eye and an ear to it. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah.
Quick Step had a panel discussion in 2021 fall with like a lot of the prominent people. I have the link to it, and it was called Battle Cry, Is It Love? Because a lot of the guys don't know.
Yep.
They don't know that they're doing something wrong.
Right.
And within that discussion, a lot came out about this programming that is so subtle. Like you said, like the music and whatever, it's just kind of there. So I think if guys can come together with themselves and a manual like this, or someone who can, you know, bring it forth, you don't have to read, you don't have to, you know, but you do have to be present. The same way you show up to a battle, you know, the community needs it. So I so commend you all on your work.
You too.
So real quick, before we move on to the question and answer, let's clarify a couple things just real quick for resources. So in the chat, we already put some links in there for you all. There is the National Sexual Assault Hotline. The number is in the comments right there. You all can look it up right there. Then there's also RAIN.org. It's a national resources for survivors. And then just to clarify again, the Goodfoot will have their book. They want to provide training with the book, and that'll be coming soon. They're going to be doing one in Seattle first. I'm sure they're going to be putting that information out there if you're on that side of the nation. But the goal is to get the books out, just for clarity, right? And then to train people and for you all to go to places so people can actually know how to train others using the book, right? Yep. We wanted some clarification on that in the comments.
Yeah. And then also too, I just wanted to mention as well as another resource, if you need it. Obviously I had the blog last year, I have a follow blog this year, and it's all about, you know, moving forward and the positive spaces and putting those organizations like the Goodfoot and the work that they're doing. So if you need any links or to those resources, they're there. Everything that I named in the video, that Trinity and I named in the video, is also there as well. And also any I guess what's the site notes that you're looking, if you're looking for proof, it's there too as well. Because I know that's important, and we want to make sure that we are professional always when we approach serious matters like this. So I just want to offer that up as well. And anything that you guys are hearing here, you know, and I know Jolene and Mel are gonna say this anyway, but share.
Yeah.
Share. Share what you're hearing with your community.
Yeah.
You know,
I want to say too, like, there's this ongoing kind of conversation around like certified or licensed and whatnot versus people that come from the street culture and from like, you know, ethnic specific backgrounds. And, you know, most of us are immigrant, refugee, and we didn't go to school for all this other stuff. However, like, you know what's right and wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't need to go to school for that. Like, you know what's honoring, you know what's dishonoring. You know, we know what's loving and what's not too. So also trust your gut. Anybody can speak to this. Anybody can be empowered. You know, your life story, your experience gives you power, and it gives you authority to speak on these things, you know, to be an advocate. So I just want to really empower everybody to be like, yo, if you're feeling some type of way and this resonates with you, like, you don't have to do all that to be an advocate, to stand up for what's right. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to put that out there.
Thank you. Y'all ready to get to some questions and answers? Don't have too many. If you are watching right now, please list any questions or comments or concerns that you have. This will be the time that we're going to address them at the end of this panel. That's what we're doing right now. We do have one question, and feel free, anybody, to chime in if you would like to. The question is, I'll read it in whole, is would you be able to talk about grooming once more and clarify if it's only considered grooming if it leads to sexual harassment / intent? And then I covered the rest of the book split stuff that's going to be available. But yes, if we can talk a little bit more about grooming. And another question to add on to that, can you even prove grooming? Because sometimes people don't even realize they're even being groomed until years later. So if we can touch on those two things a little bit more, like exactly, is it grooming? Does it only happen when it leads to sexual harassment or intent? Or is there other things that lie underneath that? Anybody have an answer for that one?
I do, but I want to like
go ahead.
be sensitive to other people's voices.
I don't know if Sandra, can you hear us? I don't think she can.
She's messaging in, so May, if you want to start, and then Sandra, just let us know in on the chat if you're ready or not.
We have our email available as well as a resource.
Yeah, I'm going to be really short with this. Grooming is grooming, whether it's sexual intent or not, whether it leads to harassment or not. Anybody who is, they are trying to manipulate or gain any kind of power and control or your trust for any type of gain. It could be just an emotional gain. That is part of grooming. So it doesn't have to be intently for some sort of a goal, but if somebody's trying to gain that from you and isolate you, that is grooming, period. And it is hard. It is very hard to understand it at the time, especially if, for young people, if their emotional intelligence isn't all the way there yet, their prefrontal cortex hasn't come together. That is where the behavior starts to happen very quickly. So I do want to say really quickly that if you can't identify at the time and then you realize like, oh my gosh, it's been 10 years later, something's triggered you, and you're realizing some things, you're bringing some things to light, you're talking to people, and you realize I was being groomed. Even in those moments, if you remember anything, you write it down. Documentation is always key. It doesn't matter how long ago it was. Documentation, whether it's going to lead to something where you're going to do some sort of reporting, it is still very healing because you're able to name something. So I would first really encourage, if there has been something that has happened, no matter how long of a time ago it was, to document it as best as you can. Make sure you're going to the right people to talk about it. Louie and I always talk about, it is not beneficial to react to something, go online and then start, doing some reactive responses. It's really best if we could take a step back and care for ourselves and really look at the situation, get some help, get some support. Find out what are some real next steps with good people and community around you before you make a decision to do anything. I'll toss it to anybody that wants to share.
Just to add on that, and again, we fully understand why somebody would want to, go to the internet, and just that's a natural reaction. That's honestly, so there's no shade on people that do that. And I get it and I respect it for sure. It's just sometimes we're adding fuel to the fire, and now there's all this legal stuff. Like, I don't want the victim to get in trouble legally because they're going to claim the offender is going to claim defamation, and all this other stuff, because that could also be a form of power and control, right? With the legal stuff. So I just want to caution victims to I get it and I hear you, and we want to fix it as much as possible. And I don't know if there's ever a fixing of the whole thing, but back to the original question, can grooming be proven? Absolutely. So one of the things that we teach and train on is, save text messages, save voicemails. If they're sending you nudes, save that. You know what I'm saying? Don't send nudes to them. Literally, this is what's happening in our youth culture, y'all. We have to tell middle schoolers to not send nudes. That's where it's at. To older men, you know what I'm saying? This is conversations that we have to have now. And so again, there's ways to prove it because everything's digital now. Everything's can be proven and saved, and there's evidence everywhere. So anyways, all that to say, it can be proven, and we just have to be smart about it.
Also, I wanted to say that Sandra, she apologizes. They're having a storm in Costa Rica, but we are going to offer up some of the wheel and everything. Maybe she could do a video and she'll put it on the blog. So to kind of educate anybody who has questions when it comes to any type of harassment or abuse or sexual assault from a psychologist's perspective. So that can offer up some ways that you can help yourself. I'd also like to address a lot of the times, at least in the sexual assault side, for many people that I've spoken to and have dealt with personally, what the man or woman will say, they will call it consensual, meaning that you agreed to it. And a lot of the times that's not the case. So to avoid that, I know it's so scary, but call the cops. You don't leave the scene. And the reason for that, and the reason even in my blog I put it, like, if let's say you leave and you're scared and you go to a place that's safe, that's good that you did that, right? But when the cops come there, they're not seeing you, they're not identifying with everybody that's involved, and they can't really fully assess what's going on. So it's kind of your word against theirs, right? Instead of being there. And that's when you fall into two different sides of the redacted report and an unredacted report, right? So if they can use that evidence, right? But to take it to court, it's going to be a very long process, and they're going to ask you, do you want to go through that? You know, and then if they win, you could lose all that evidence. And then it's like, oh man, so but if you don't, then maybe you'll have that evidence. And I know it's kind of crazy, our legal system, but we'll have that evidence for the next person if it happens, and we have something to go against them with. And staying silent, you know, every state has a different set of statutes of limitation. I can only speak on, you know, Boston or Connecticut, it's like 15. After that, you know, there really is not so much you can do, except, like, for instance, they were naming like cyberbullying or stalking, getting your proof, make sure you send screenshots, make sure you report the page, block them, you know, and even like tell your friends because you don't feel safe. Those are other measures that you can take. But I just want, I want you to know at the end of the day, we're creating, everybody here is creating in some way, shape, or form, some place you can go to ask for help, because we don't have that. So I would just offer that up, at least from my perspective anyway.
And with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and list this resources. So anybody who is watching right now, please feel free to screenshot, take a picture with your phone. It might be the fastest way to get this information, just to have it on you. Keep it handy, post it, share it. The more we share it, the better everybody knows who they can call, who they can reach out to, because it might not be us. You may not even feel comfortable talking to us, but if you feel comfortable talking to maybe some of these people, these are the resources. So please screenshot away, take pictures, do what you gotta do. We'll give you all a minute, couple 30 seconds looking at this.
Yes,
and go ahead.
Live stream will still be on the Flooristas Facebook.
Yes,
so,
we are recording.
So thank you so much for everyone who's tuning in tonight. You can still share it after the panel is over. There's so much information that is important, and I commend everyone who's here on their own time and continue to do the hard work, with this specific topic. And yeah, and thank you, Samuel. He just said he just made it to share. Mm-hmm. And Hosin, thanks so much for putting this panel together. If you have any last questions, comment below. We're about to end pretty soon. Is there anything? Yep. What's up, Rosie? Yep. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for all y'all. Amen to that. Is there?
Can I drop something too?
Yes. Drop it.
Just if what May and I are working on is being able to receive people well. Like if somebody comes to us, we've seen a lot of cases where people come to us in an emergency situation. So I think as we're coming into this work, just also don't feel like you have to fix or save the person. Just, I want to offer ways to ask good questions and, make sure you're also safe. So you're not jumping into a situation that, could be, there's different temperaments. And we actually do a training on this, about standby or bystander intervention, like based on somebody that can engage directly, or whether they want to delegate, or versus they want to be a distraction to the violence happening. But there's, again, I feel like a lot of people want to help, but they don't know how. And, just having wisdom around that. And again, we can have another session on that too. But just want to also drop that, like, if somebody's coming to you in a crisis mode, I know sometimes we don't have the answers and we feel like some kind of stress and pressure to like help and fix, and you don't always have to feel that way. There are practical ways to help where everybody can feel safe, and so just want to drop that.
Louie, we actually had a question, and it says, do you feel enough men are speaking into this from the culture? Do you feel unsupported by the male demographic? How do y'all feel about that? That was the question that was just asked.
Yeah. Do you want me to respond to that?
Yeah, you can go ahead and start, and then anybody else wants to add on.
Yeah, I think there needs to be more. I mean, even in the classroom context within the high school setting, like we're dealing with kids from all different type of cultures, and the ones that are doing the pushback and the laughing and the giggling and the whatever is the guys, like straight up. You know what I'm saying? When we're bringing up things like sexual assault, rape culture, pornography, all these things that lead to, sexual assault, the pushback comes from the guys, and it's always typically the women who are like, yep, finally someone's talking about it. Fine, you know what I mean? I've been telling y'all, da da da. So no, there's not enough men, because again, it's not our experience. Let's be real. Just because it doesn't affect you on a personal level doesn't mean it's not real. Like straight up, we have to like change our paradigm on that.
And for the women, do you all feel supported by the men in our scene? Do you feel there is a lack, or can we ask for more?
I'll chime in. I think that what ends up happening is the education side of it. I just know from my experience, I had an expectation of how I thought they should react to a situation that was uncomfortable. And it was really that they didn't know how to react to the situation that was uncomfortable. And Louie, you could probably touch on this a little bit more than I can, but because of the lack of the communication that was involved, like, unless they can assess it to their own experience, that's the only way that I felt like the reaction was there. For men, I know for men that have, sisters, you know what I mean? And they had a bad experience with a boyfriend or whatever, they step in, right? For the ones that don't, oh, well, he was just dancing, he was just talking, like he didn't do anything. You have that perspective. The only thing I can say, and to all the men out there, shout out to all the men, because they're not all bad men. Please don't feel emasculated, okay? It's an uncomfortable topic. We have to talk about it, okay? But at the same time, the best way I can describe it, and especially for the men that have little girls. If you have a little girl and she says, Daddy, I don't feel safe. I don't like how this one touched me. I don't like how this one talked to me. Listen, and don't question her a million times, because then she's going to doubt all the feelings that she has. And she's not going to know what is right and what is wrong unless you sit down and say, like, we care about you. We love you. Why do you feel this way? And then show her that you're going to take action. I'm an adult and I had a lot of bad experiences, but the trauma for me to speak out was less because I was taught to be quiet. Or if you're an athlete, any athlete, they're taught to, like, for pain, right? You go through no pain, no gain, right? You go through pain and you're like, it's over your head. I'm gonna push through it. I'm gonna push through it. I'm gonna act like it doesn't bother me, and I'm not gonna really address it until it gets really bad. But we all know what happens when it gets really bad. That's when things really blow up, when it could have started when it was really small. So that's what I can say. Sorry, I'm laughing.
No, you're good. Let it out. This is the time to talk about it. That's what we're doing this for. So the next question, do you think porn is over-sexualizing elements of hip hop dance styles? going off the point that Louie made earlier?
Yeah.
I don't know that it's porn. I don't know that it's porn, but I just think that women have always been sexualized in the media. Like predate hip hop. If you predate, I mean, ice skaters, just whatever. Women have always been sexualized when it comes, because it's like so appealing to the men who are watching. So really TV and all this stuff is for men. Yeah, at some point it switched and, oh, we can sell appliances to women. We can sell makeup to women. So yeah, there was another, lane to persuade and get money off of people's pockets, because the women were pretty much in charge of household things that cost money, including food. But yeah, anything else, it was women, that were attracting the male gaze. And so I don't think that it's hip hop and, specifically, because salsa too, so I just feel like we have to kind of watch where we're headed, because I remember when I could go to an audition in like a pair of track pants, whatever, and make the audition. And then there was like a switch where unless I was wearing a push-up bra and some poom poom short Daisy Dukes, I wasn't gonna make the cut. So I stopped auditioning and, self-produced my own performances and blah, blah, blah. But in terms of hip hop culture, we have our own aesthetic. Women can show up as they are. But in terms of the mainstream, if you go to do a job, yeah, you're going to have to show some skin. And yeah, you're going to have to wink at the camera or play up to the rapper who's there on stage with you. So it is a problem that if we're not sharing with young people that the moves that they're doing is reenacting a sex act, which is inviting men to fantasize about what it would be like to be with me in bed. If we're not getting that message across to young women, they're never going to understand it. They're going to keep, going for it and misrepresenting what this culture was really about. Because that wasn't what it was about when it first started. It was really about survival. I have a talent. Let me show you. I'm here. Let's get some buildings built over here. Let's, get me out of this environment. So I don't know that it's porno so much, or as much as it is capitalism, commercialism, trying to get money out your pocket into their bank account. So I just want to say that real quickly.
If I can, I'll read what Sandra just said. Sandra said, porn and the use of technology does cause over-sexualization. One problem is that technology accessed by young children during their formative years is having an impact. She also mentioned that many music videos today are very sexualized. They have been for a long time, right? We all know this. In itself, it's not a problem, but when viewed by a younger children, develops a belief system that this behavior is okay. And I was going to mention that earlier too, is I just believe that we have so much to unlearn and to learn, because a lot of us were just not, we were kind of just thrown in the hot water, and a lot of us are just kind of like bleeding out and we just didn't know, so we definitely have a lot to unlearn. And a lot of us definitely need to be re-educated in certain things that we just thought were okay for so long. Anybody else want to add on to that? Louie, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah. We definitely talk about this in the classroom context with students, because porn is here. It's here to stay. Like Rock was saying, it's been a fabric of our society. It comes from mainstream, white male dominated mentalities, taking over the culture, monetizing it. They've done the same thing with sex. What I'm saying? It reduces women to a product, to a piece of meat. And I bought into it as a kid. I grew up, it was around me, I'm not gonna lie. What I'm saying? So the reality is the fact that it's $1 billion industry is because we're buying, we're selling, we're clicking. What I'm saying? Men and women and every gender you can imagine is here to stay. It's part of our society. However, again, when we take fantasy and we confuse it with reality, that causes abuse. So for example, if my wife doesn't want to have sex one night and, she's not living into the fantasy that I want, what I'm saying? As a guy, again, I will never say this, like, you are lower than me, you better do what I say. But my attitude and my tone and my behavior will treat her that way. What I'm saying? And this is a tape that's playing in my head because, again, you're my product, you're my material, you're my possession. You better do what I say. So that causes control, manipulation, verbal abuse, sexual abuse. That leads into rape culture. You already know. So at an early age, if we're already looking at women as a product, as a piece of meat that I could do whatever I want with, can you imagine when we get into relationships? You know what I'm saying? When we take fantasy and we confuse it for reality, because on a real, my wife don't want to have sex on a regular. And she has a right to her own body. If she says no, then it's no. I got to be cool with that. You know what I'm saying? And I can't use things like, oh, well, she was wearing a miniskirt. Well, she shouldn't have drank so much. Well, she was asking for it, because that's what a lot of guys will do. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, we're just trying to get ours and not have we don't want to have we want the benefits. We don't want the consequences. You know what I'm saying? And again, that's where it becomes toxic. It becomes very dangerous, very dangerous. There's so many cases where if it's led to homicide, suicide scenarios because somebody was really addicted to porn and they couldn't control their urges. There's a jail system in the state of Washington on McNeil Island specifically for sex offenders because they can't control their sexual urges. You know what I'm saying? So it's a problem. And so porn doesn't really benefit us if we're already in an addictive society. You know what I'm saying? So again, if you're doing it, no shade, it's all love, but just understand what's healthy and what's not and what's beneficial and what's safe for your relationships.
Thank you, Louie, so much for answering that. Really great questions from everyone who's joining in. As we are closing now at the end of our panel discussion, this pretty much concludes the No Excuses, Prevention and Awareness for Sexual Harassment. Once again, we have May and Louie from the Good Foot Arts Collective, Ntegrity from Integrity in Motion, Sandra, God bless her soul, and on that storm over there, our professional psychologist who was able to join last minute. Thank you for her time. And of course, Rockefeller hip hop Beagle legend in the house. I want to give a shout out to my crewmate Mel for letting me use her Zoom. And also the Flooristas Facebook. You know, Flooristas is an all Beagle crew based here in the US, and we want to continue to support everyone and to connect you know, everyone that we know to continue the momentum against sexual harassment. So thank you, everyone. That is my closing statement. I'll pass it on to Jolene and everyone else.
Sorry, I didn't have to unmute. I just want to first acknowledge everybody on this panel. Thank you for all the hard work. Thank you for still being in the scene. I know sometimes it's easier to walk away than stay and actually do the work. Sometimes people want to leave because of all the damage that happens sometimes. But if we keep leaving, and then it's just going to continue to be what it is. And I think we all love this culture way too much to let it go and to let it, we want it to thrive. Like I think May said earlier, we want it to thrive. So I guess my closing statement is something I just wanted to mention is that I believe, I mean, and this might be sad to say, with the term safe space for me and how sometimes I walk in this world is there's sometimes never any safe spaces. There may never be an exact safe space, but the goal is to always create safer places and to bring acknowledgement to it. So for anybody watching, I want to encourage you to stay strong, to remember to protect yourself, to remember to always be aware wherever you're at, wherever you're going, no matter where you're at, always try to be aware, have your support system. Don't do this walk alone in life. You need to have friends, you need to have that support. There's plenty of people here, right here that are willing to support, and I know there's more people out there. So if anybody out there wants to help and get this word out, please hit up May and everybody and get that training in. It's going to be an incredible manual, and just keep speaking out. Even if you don't have the exact correct words to say, saying no and saying this is wrong is sometimes all you need to do. So thank you everybody for this. Thank you everyone. And I'm ready to continue the work.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm gonna read Sandra, her pretty much ending statement. Thank you, Sandra. There will never be a reason for us all to stop educating others about sexual abuse, assault, stalking, and domestic violence. We need to continue the programs that exist, continue to develop a new programs for children that become a part of the school curriculum, teach about maintaining boundaries and recognizing that our bodies feel when something is wrong. I also think we need to do more with breaking down the cultural expectations and norms that still support that women are less than. That's amazing.
Wow.
Any last words?
Oh,
Who's
sorry.
next?
Oh, sorry. I'll just go. I wanted to just give a big shout out to everybody that's been a part of this. You guys have been, man, a just huge support system for me and my journey. And it was hard to get here. So I'm very grateful to you all, just to reach out and say, hey, are you okay? Another shout out I want to give to is my girl, Girl Tiny. When all of this was going on, especially with my blog, she was somebody that I was sharing things to, and she created her merch, and one of it is called Resilient. And it was because of what I was going through, and because of even with her situations in life, that she was afraid to speak out and use her voice. So she did. So that's why I keep wearing this, because I want to support what she's also doing and bringing to the table. And I just want to encourage everybody that if you do want to speak out in any type of way, I do provide, my blog is a safe space to share your story. So you do have that resource there too, as well, open to you. And the last thing I just want to say is that you are not alone. You really are not. That whole idea, please get it out of your head. There are people that want to help. So please continue to help. Please continue to share. I can't speak for everybody else here, but I think we're going to make this an annual thing. And I believe that we're going to do this more often, and we're going to build our community up so we have more people that want to chime in and have these discussions. So not to say it's going to be normal, but to say that we can reprogram what we've been taught. So, and that being said, you guys are amazing. I freaking love you. Talk to you later. Peace.
Thank you, Ntegrity. I want to give a shout out to Anna from all the way in Seattle. She said, thank you all so much for doing this work and putting this on. Looking forward to learning more. Super excited for change. So that's amazing.
Yeah. Massive monkeys. I think my only closing words is I just want to speak to the fellas, like, it doesn't have to be this way. And if there's some reconciliation you got to do, just bring it to the light. You're going to be, the longer we wait, the longer we drag it out. And, just don't live in fear. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're going to be strong and courageous in things, like, don't just do it on the dance floor, like do it in your own life, like straight up. This is what it means to also be a man. You know what I mean? It's to take ownership, is to be sensitive, like to say sorry and take some action steps towards it. So again, we know we all come from all kinds of different struggles, but like just own up to it. It'll work out before it gets bad, before it gets worse. You know what I'm saying? So if that's you, just know that there's help, man. And ain't nobody there's no judgment, there's no shade. Like, this is correct the wrongs. You'll be greater for it. And just shout out to all the courageous women on the panel. Much love, much respect. Thanks for holding it down. And y'all have the thickest skin, the thickest patience with us boneheads sometimes, like, for real. I mean, not to make light of it. I'm seriously though, I'm not trying to make light of it. I'm just, much love.
I think it's great to have support from our brothers and our kings, standing right next to us. The more support we feel, the more empowered we feel together. And it's not a gendered thing, a male or female, Sandra, she also wanted to say, a big part of treatment with survivors is that if we respect ourselves first, we will not allow another person to abuse or degrade our very being. Loving ourselves and respecting our own bodies, self-esteem activities are very useful as a component of prevention. That's good.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just I want to just wrap up so that Queen Rock can wrap all of the closing statements up. But I'm just really thankful. I'm really grateful for everybody that's on here and those that are listening in. These are conversations that are always hard to have, but we have to have them. Right. And so I'm not going to repeat what anybody else has already said, but acknowledge. And I'm just asking for everybody who is listening. If there is anything that that's going on in your scene, acknowledge it, whether it's for a survivor, whether it's somebody that is causing harm. How are we moving that to action? And then invite your crew, invite your people into that community of discussion, have those courageous conversations. The way that we are made is there is an imago Dei of how we are made, right? There's an identity of us that gets broken down when abuse enters in. And we as a community have to uplift that, not tear it down. So get at us if you want to have more information on the No Excuses training resource. Our info is, I think, is up on there. Let us know. We would love to come and just give any kind of resource to y'all. So appreciate everybody on here.
Yes. So for all the organizers, promoters out there in the United States, if you want May and Louie to come to your jam, maybe to do another panel or do some teaching, please collaborate with them. So, promoters and organizers can take more accountability in their own scene and community and passing on this information. So that's one thing that I want to add on to that. This is nonstop. We got to keep continuing to do the work. So rock, let's go.
All I want to say is that the future looks great, and I'm super inspired, by all of you and the work that y'all have put in. Everybody is trying. Everybody, from Bigo Miwa in Brazil to, there's just a lot of people who are trying to make this better. And I know that it may feel helpless sometimes. It may feel like, no, they don't want to show up, or they're not coming to discussion, or how do we reach this guy or this girl? Just keep going. Keep going, and within your circle, if you can create people who are conscious and sensitive, you're doing the work, because it's a ripple effect. And so, maybe you can't change the entire world, but at least within your circle and those people who are taught by those people in your circle, the change is happening already, and I already felt it. Especially coming out of Black Lives Matter from 2020 in the pandemic, people wanted to sit, people wanted to talk. And people wanted to talk to promoters, and I have trouble with this one judge, I have trouble with this, and people were listening. Shout out to the Zia Queens, they also did a lot out there to try and address a grooming situation. So we're all trying, and the future looks great. That's all I can say. Let's keep the work going. Peace, y'all.
These efforts will definitely show in our hard work, and tonight is proof of that as well. I think that's it. I think that concludes the panel for tonight. And like I said, this will be on Facebook, Flooristas still, so please share. I got nothing to say. I feel really, really good to have this, and I'm honored to have everyone in this panel, and then the efforts that everyone took to organize this together, the text messages, the Google Drive. We're putting in a work, but it's for a higher purpose, and with that higher purpose, with good intentions. I'm gonna leave it at that. Have a good night.
Oh, wait, one more thing. I'm so sorry. I'm just going to tell you guys, listen, it doesn't stop here. Listen, 2023, break the cycle, April, it's going down. Lou, May, I'm going to get Genesis, Jolene, Rockefeller, and my girl Asia. Everybody's going to be there. You guys better get ready for it, because we're going to have a whole bunch of discussions. We're going to have a whole bunch of healing, and we're going to get the work. We're going to get the work done. One step at a time. That's all I gotta say.
Join us next year too. All right, y'all. I'm gonna stop the live stream, and then y'all have a good night.
Everybody put up your peace signs. Do your